I would say that the corporate grind kind of gave me the entrepreneurial bug to create something. And what we loved about it was we were solving a problem that nobody thought was solvable. And many people didn't even think was a problem until we highlighted it. I learned that what I'm in love with is solving problems and building. What do I want to do next? I had started talking with my father-in-law, who was the founder of Skil-Care almost 50 years ago. By all measure, it's kind of a sleepy medical device manufacturing company. But there was something I really loved about that.
Want to attract and convert more leads? Want to learn how digital PR, branding, and SEO can establish and build your brand identity? Welcome to the Market Movers Building Brands and Links with Linkify podcast. We answer these questions and help you ramp up your brand visibility and credibility. Let's cut through the noise and make your business the talk of the town. We're your hosts, Nick and Chris. Let's get this show on the road.
Welcome to the Market Movers podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Jonathan Treiber, CEO of Skil-Care and former co-founder of RevTrax, where he built a category-defining marketing tech platform. We are digging into how legacy brands can unlock growth through modern e-commerce strategy, data-driven decision-making, and positioning themselves as solutions, not just products. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've had a pretty interesting journey, I think, so far. Why don't you start by telling us how you started out in the world of marketing and what led you to be the CEO of Skil-Care today?
So I guess I'd start in terms of my first job out of school, my academic journey. I always thought very confidently as a young person that I wanted to be in finance. So my first job was in finance. Great experience, learned a ton. Maybe most importantly, learned I did not want to work in finance. And through the first 2 years of working endless hours and wondering about what else is out there in the world, myself and what turned out to be not only one of my best friends from university, but what my co-founder at RevTrax, we brainstormed about entrepreneurial ideas. And I won't take up too much time talking about all the crazy and wonderful ideas we had late at night about what we wanted to do. But I would say that the corporate grind kind of gave me the entrepreneurial bug to do something, to create something, to build something. We ended up initially with a failed digital marketing venture that was focused on and in the world of affiliate marketing and referral marketing. Don't need to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I do like to readily admit that we got our first failure under our belt pretty quickly. The best part of that experience was it gave us the conviction and the critical pivot into RevTrax. So RevTrax became a wonderful, highs and lows, ending on a high tech startup journey over 15 years. We ended up starting RevTrax because a problem that we saw much deeper once we were in the digital marketing realm was for consumer brands, specifically retailers, e-commerce retailers, physical retailers, packaged goods companies, consumer brands. They were using the internet in a very unintelligent way to promote discounts, coupons, vouchers, etc. to consumers. Almost doing like what they've done for 50 years in newspaper, doing it on the internet. And our theory and thesis was that the internet, because of all the data and the real-time capabilities and the targeting capabilities, which the advertising world had, been obviously espousing and executing, that theory and philosophy of targeting and data-driven intelligence had not made its way to the bottom of the marketing funnel, which is promotional activation, right? What is the discount that Chris sees versus Jonathan, and why? Versus everybody getting 20% off, when there's data to support the fact that Chris is most likely to pay full price. So why would you give him 20% off? And the answer came down to technology deficits. They didn't have a technology to do that type of stuff, and they didn't know it was possible. There were some brands that didn't care. That was interesting. But effectively, the pivot into RevTrax became, we believe in the marketing tech stack, you had all the acronyms. SEM, SEO, DSP, ESP, DMP, all of these things, but nothing that really focused as a specialty software solution on the delivery of unique, distinct, secure, and traceable discounts, coupons, and vouchers. We said that's what we want to do. So in this big house that big brands invested in, the stack, we realized there's a missing brick that could make everything better. And so that's what we did. That was the category we defined over a decade. We called it the offer management platform that integrated vertically with CRM systems, email platforms, and so forth. And what we loved about it was we were solving a problem that nobody thought was solvable. And many people didn't even think was a problem until we highlighted it for them. That entrepreneurial journey was really rewarding, but really hard because it was selling a solution to somebody who didn't know they needed it. And the evangelical selling we had to do to win our first customers, to, evangelize the story and, take those wins and market them and build that success. It was hard. It was hard. We realized very early on that we were not a venture-backed company. We attempted to raise VC money and learned the hard way that the VCs really didn't believe that we were a hyperscaler, which was true, but it was hard to stomach at the time because all the other MarTech companies were, raising VC money and scaling and all of that. But it was clear to me that they were hyperscaling because they were providing a better mousetrap to some sort of existing solution. And we were not. We were providing a brand new solution never seen on the planet before to people who didn't even know they needed it.
Let me just jump in and ask a question. When that initial education to the customer on a problem which they didn't even know exists, I can understand that, and that's incredible that you managed to get through that. Did that become a lot easier as you started building internal data and were able to share case studies with people and say, hey, look, if you implement this, rather than just offering a 20% blanket discount to every customer, you can increase X by Y and save, Z by. Did it look like that? Yeah.
Yes, it got easier. It was never easy.
Yeah.
Because remember, at the core, we sold to large enterprises. We didn't sell to small businesses. Our goal and vision was the more complex marketing solutions or infrastructure a company had that also did coupons in a kind of dumb way. And that's how we market it. Like Skil-Care is fighting not Skil-Care, RevTrax is fighting the war on dumb couponing. And for these brands, we're talking Kimberly-Clark, Unilever, Clorox, Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal, retailers in the US like Walgreens and Toys R Us and Bed Bath & Beyond. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. And what we learned was while they had the complexity and the need for our solution, they had never budgeted for our solution. So we were fighting for budget carve-outs from other places because they didn't have, this slush fund. Many of them did, innovation funds, and we learned how to tap into that. But, telling the story, as you said, yes, absolutely, it became easier to make the case, but still we're fighting against where's budget going to come from. And that became something we learned very quickly about how to be proactive and talk to new customers about where budget comes from to fund our tech solution and then proving the value over time. And, as they say, the rest was history, but it was a very meaningful experience, neck deep in the world of tech startup. Because we weren't venture funded, we did have the patience and the luxury of time to be patient, to gain market traction versus the artificial, let's turbocharge this thing and it either goes off a cliff or it goes into outer space. And so we could talk at length about, that, benefit. It was really serendipity because if we raised venture capital, I think the business would have been dead within 5 years. And it took a decade to build the category, to build the awareness, to establish RevTrax as the, category leader in this new category that matters, not to everybody, but to 500 large enterprise advertisers and marketers, specifically in the US. We dabbled in the UK, we dabbled in Canada, but really the US was the primary market. And again, fits and starts, almost ran out of money 15 times. We're able to bring it back And lots of stories I don't we don't have the time to get into here, but effectively got to a strategic exit with a large marketing services company that really wanted to do more with digital marketing of incentives, vouchers, coupons.
Hmm.
And they knew in order to do it smarter, more targeted, which was their product roadmap, they needed our solution. So they acquired RevTrax. I stayed on for 2 years in order to help with the transition. It was successful. The business still exists, right? So we definitely bucked some of those statistics. I never wanted to be a statistic in terms of, most acquisitions fail and, acquiring companies screw up the business and, tons of people get fired. Like we've all heard horror stories. My pride in not only that we built this thing from nothing, but it had staying power even post acquisition, I'm really proud of. And most of the people who I worked with are still there.
That's
So it's
awesome.
been about 4 years
That's the
and the
dream.
business is there and it's doing well. Some people have left, but really most people are still there. So here's a transition point, right? To me, that was like I always used to tell people it was like an entrepreneurial MBA crammed into real life experience where it was like this pressure cooker. A 2 or 3 year MBA. I probably by year 2 of this entrepreneurial venture could have given a lecture to MBA students, right? It's that real life experience. And over 10 years, I don't want to say I saw everything, but I saw a lot, right? In terms of what worked, what didn't work, we made a ton of mistakes. And the key feeling I had towards the end was while this was awesome and I love hard problems, I'm very entrepreneurial. I'm not in love with an industry. I'm not in love with digital marketing. Right? I learned that what I'm in love with is solving problems and building. And then it gave me an inflection point to reevaluate, right? What do I want to do next? And it just so happened that I had started talking with my father-in-law, who was the founder or is the founder of Skil-Care. He started the business almost 50 years ago. By all measure, it's kind of a sleepy medical device manufacturing company.
Hmm.
It is far less digital, sexy, et cetera, than what I did at RevTrax and what I, maybe could have done. But there was something I really loved about that the products were more commoditized, not fully commoditized, but they were, they existed in the market for a long time. And I felt very, very strongly about getting involved with Skil-Care for 3 reasons. One, I saw phenomenal opportunity for the business. The foundation I tell people all the time that my father-in-law built was really strong, right? Great brand, great quality product, tons of nursing homes, hospitals, et cetera, buying our product, lots of distributors distributing it. We have, massive distribution, but never really good modern marketing and sales. And so given that's kind of, my thing, my passion, and the link from RevTrax is not what we did at RevTrax, but think of it as who our clients were at RevTrax. I got to work with Unilever and their marketing team on consumer marketing and how they get products, physical products into the market, you know, tapping into the emotional connection with consumers, how they work with retailers. Yes, it's promotional, but ultimately I feel like I got a front seat MBA from some of the world's best marketers for consumer products. That was the tie into Skil-Care where I said, we're not Unilever. We're starting at such a small scale, but there's a kernel here of a sea of sameness in our product categories that Skil-Care is a bit of a rare bird where we've been around for a long time. We have a well-established brand. It's not widespread, right? We don't own 80% of the category, but we have an opportunity to do modern day brand building to establish Skil-Care as the go-to brand among clinicians and consumers because our product is bought by both facilities, but also people who need our products for their parents or grandparents in their homes. That brand building opportunity, that's the difference maker for us to
That's awesome.
differentiate Skil-Care in this sea of sameness
Hmm.
at a bigger scale.
So
That's what I fell in love with.
let's talk then. Brand building is exactly where we should be at now in the era of AI and being able to differentiate. Brands are going to be the ones that survive. Brands are going to be the things that are recommended inside of LLM. So this is awesome. You're bringing a decade and a half of experience to this. What does that granular strategy look like since you've been with Skil-Care? How are you actionably building brand for this business?
So building brand is about storytelling, right? And we have such a great and unique story to tell that we have never really told.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, if I were to tell you, and this is the story, right? We're doing this and executing this. I'll talk tactics about digital advertising, audience targeting to clinicians with brand messaging around this. But we are a family-owned, women-owned, domestic manufacturer of medical products. My father-in-law started the business almost 50 years ago because he saw a need, personal need, of having two parents that were aging in nursing homes. And in the late 70s, 80s, even now, right? Nursing homes can be a bit sketch. He said, hey, my parents don't have certain comfort products, cushions, things to keep them safe and comfortable. And those are the two words that we live and die by. And he said, you know what? And he was a Navy engineer. He was a civilian engineer for the US Navy. He had no experience in this, but he said, you know what? How hard could this be? My parents need X, Y, and Z. I think I can make it. And so he started down the path of filling a personal need for his parents. And as they say, the rest was history, right? The nurses were like, yeah, I can use that. Oh, where can I get more of these things? And it started to build on itself. That personal origin story has really never been told. And the ability to connect with people that are dealing with parents or grandparents who also are bedridden or in a wheelchair, et cetera, it resonates. None of our competitors have a story like that, let alone tell a story like that. And for us, it feeds our passion for the mission that we're on, right? And brands have missions.
Yeah.
So not only do brands have stories, they have missions, and we have both. So tactically, we also, up until 3 years ago, had never done any digital marketing. We really haven't done much marketing, right? As I told you, it was like the product kind of sells itself, and we have sales and we fill orders. And the thought was, no. This story, this kernel, we have to get the message out there and resonate with our audiences, right? The business buyers, the personal consumer buyers. So we started very simple. We're going to start doing digital advertising on Facebook. We're going to use their audience targeting. We're going to start running multiple campaigns. We're going to ABC test everything. We're going to run different messages with imagery that we think resonates and conveys our brand and the emotional side of what we do and why we do what we do. And we're going to go target every nurse. We're going to go target people who are, in the age bracket that we think, are relevant to our product. And that was pretty game changing. In addition to launching an e-commerce site, right? A direct e-commerce site. We never had a commerce site. But the strategy was never, we're going to build a $10 million e-commerce business. It was part of the overall multi-channel strategy, which I had seen at RevTrax work for all the brands that we served. That offline and online separately were never as powerful as online and offline together. And that became our playbook. E-commerce direct, content marketing, thought leadership, white papers, PR. That's what we're doing right now, right? Those are things that give us outlets to tell our story. And the biggest fundamental lever that changed the course of our business was relaunching and rebuilding our Amazon business, which I shared some notes with you ahead of this call. I can get into plenty of detail, but the idea was it was a mess, fragmented, disjointed. We were very hands-off through intermediary sellers of our product on Amazon. We thought they would represent our brand the right way. They didn't. We didn't know. We didn't ask. We didn't manage it. We generated sales. Yeah, so that was good. But it was so limiting. And frankly, just from a brand building standpoint, it did not represent the brand the way it needed to. Right?
Was there a disconnect between the brand story that you were trying to tell and the way that you were being represented on the world's biggest marketplace? Yeah.
Yes. It was embarrassing.
God.
Okay. And so that, given my background in e-commerce and retail, I wasn't an expert on Amazon, but I knew enough to say I need to find the experts who I can hire to handle this and rebuild this from the ground up. And that was fundamentally what we did. We cut off all the resellers. We became our own seller on Amazon. We brought in an agency who revamped all of our product listings and marketing and content, all the SEO, right? All the basic stuff that it's not hard to get right, but you need to know what you're doing. And for Skil-Care, I think we didn't know, and we didn't know what we didn't know. And being able to put this strategy in place on Amazon, we're already at 2.5 to 3x, whatever the peak was on Amazon in the past, with a better brand story, better content, visuals that, again, reflect what I'm sharing with you on the world's biggest marketplace, which I actually refer to as the world's showroom. Because Amazon for us, and you probably know these stats, at least currently, in the past, 5 out of 10, 1 out of 2 product searches start on Amazon. 40% of purchases online happen on Amazon. So that means there's leakage. There's discovery on Amazon and people go buy elsewhere. If we show up the right way on Amazon, I believe it'll create a halo effect across all of our channels that we already have established, including people who leave Amazon who want to buy direct from us, which happens. So Amazon has always been, in my mind, the hub for our digital presence because of how big they are and the scale and the discoverability, but we need to show up the right way. And I can sit here and say today that we have not completed that project, but we are, 85% towards that way. And the, results have been dramatic.
Okay. That's awesome. So now you've got this sort of multi-channel, you're telling the story, you're doing all of these different things in order to build brand. Now you talked as well as about your Facebook strategy, different creatives, A/B testing. We're now in the era of AI, which means if we do things and we explore this technology properly, we can potentially just do, 10x, 20x, 100x more across everywhere that we're trying to sell. Where are you testing AI? Where are you most excited, and what are you most scared by in terms of Skil-Care now and, the next decade, let's say?
So AI, we're using it in a variety of different ways. One of the biggest productivity unlocks for us with AI has been content creation. Specifically, photography and renderings. I think about Amazon lifestyle images, how our products are being used. I mean, literally up until 2 years ago, our photography mostly were manually photographed people in and using our products from 25 years ago, right? Our photography was stale, and doing digital Photoshop rendering was crazy time consuming. So we moved from an era of physical models in a wheelchair, in a bed, using our products, photograph. We're like, that's silly. Let's do it where it's all digital rendering, where we're superimposing, people on our product and shadowing and all that, which was better than having to deal with physical photo shoots, but took a ton of time, like ridiculous. AI, through specialty applications, right, that use AI, have enabled us to churn out such good product imagery, use cases, style images it's not just 10x, man. It's like 100x. And so that, because content, having the right content, good looking content, compelling content, visual content, that for us is the name of the game right now. I would also say that AI plays in to content creation from a marketing copy standpoint, right? The ability to ABC test things that you come from your head and see how they play out. Well, that's not the process anymore. The process is what's in your head goes into AI, and you prompt it for, hey, give me the 3 best subject lines or, ad tag lines, we should run for these audiences and all the prompt stuff. And then that's what you test. So I feel like it accelerates your optimization using digital marketing so that you can get to smarter, more effective, faster.
Yeah.
And so that human gut feel, that judgment call is now a much smaller piece of it than it used to be. So that's on the marketing front. And then even ad creative, right? Ad creative and ad creative design, like all of a sudden it can happen, we hope better, but certainly faster in terms of being able to produce the ad creatives and everything else.
And then what scares you? I imagine if we go back to your original business, which you built over the course of 15 years, you made loads of mistakes, you created a category and you learned from it. If you put yourself where you were when you started that business in today's era with, the no code and vibe coding tools that you've got access to, I imagine you could have gone a million miles an hour with that. You probably also would have had maybe more competition. It could have been a completely different landscape. We're now here. I think health and health related businesses rely more on things like credibility and trust because of the industry that you're in. So I'm wondering if you're able to build a moat against people trying to come into the space that may be able to 100x their output, but they haven't got that sort of credibility and trust that you've been able to build, and how you look to protect that.
You nailed it. There are companies that Amazon's a great example. And maybe I would answer your first question. I probably would not start RevTrax today. Yes, if I did, we could do better, faster, no code, all that. And RevTrax was actually the first in our category to implement what I would call first generation AI. It wasn't, and it sort of auto decided what you would see versus me versus, more manual kind of Boolean rules, if then this type thing. So I would be much more scared if I was in a tech or software business. What you're talking about is a critical piece for why I won't say, I can't really tell you that I'm scared about something significant, right? Because AI for us is a productivity turbocharging tool.
Mm-hmm.
We make physical products that are tech. They're no tech. There is nothing technical about the products we make. They need to work clinically in the real world. Can AI disrupt it? I mean, let's assume yes, right? I think we don't know what we don't know. And that at some point it could or might. But this is a point in time, Chris, where I'm really, really happy to be the CEO of a manufacturing company. Because AI at the moment, again, we could talk robotics, we could talk about all sorts of stuff that isn't here yet that we could take advantage of when it's ready to do things in our production facility, right? To make products better, faster, cheaper. I mean, all that's a good thing, right? I don't see how that would necessarily disrupt our business. And so this moat that we've created, we're able to do more with less. I gave you some examples using AI, huge efficiencies. Two, we are also, as a small business, with me here and a very willing group, of capable people, we're actively looking at, which most manufacturing companies are, and certainly I don't think any of the much, much, much bigger companies in our categories are thinking about, what's our claw strategy? What could we do with agentic AI to look at agents that can help, create more fluidity in our processes, right? Remove bottlenecks and stuff. And I could talk at length about those projects that we are working on, right? We're not too big and too complex where this becomes like a bog that we're weighed down and can't, we don't know what to do and people don't like it. We have, I think, been embracing AI very strategically, right? As a productivity tool that helps us do business better. But then also there's the, sort of agentic and claw strategy and things that we haven't yet implemented in our internal systems, which is a little riskier and much more cutting edge, but could have huge benefits. To the point of the moats, I have seen this play out. I've been in the business 3 years. I've seen this play out specifically, and I think it's more indicative of our broader ecosystem, but Amazon. So Skil-Care is not an Amazon business. We are a 50-year business built, blood, sweat, and tears from the ground up, selling to clinical facilities, gaining adoption among nurses who use our products with patients. We have distributors, 300 worldwide. Getting distribution is not like that in the real world. It's hard. We have done that over decades. A company starting today, Skil-Care starting today, would do exactly what some of the Chinese-only brands, right? Amazon's filled with Chinese brands who say, hey, Amazon, this product has a big, lots of sales, little competition. We're going to spin up a brand. We're going to spin up a product or a set of products, and we're going to go market them using all the innovative new tools on Amazon, and we're going to go capture sales. and sell as much product as we can until maybe it peters out and then we move to the next product. We have those competitors on Amazon. We do not have them in the real world. And our bet and our moat is that we bring 50 years of clinical credibility in the medical device world to Amazon. And to boot, when somebody's looking at a product on Amazon, they're looking, oh, Skil-Care. Maybe they don't know us. Maybe they do know us. Or they're buying, hey, I can buy a cheaper product from this other brand that I've also never heard of. That's, Chinese brand only. We might lose a sale because we're never the lowest price provider. But I believe fundamentally in the long game, we've been around for 50 years. Here's the long game. If Amazon's in the middle and you have a diagram and a circle around it, which involves all the other touch points we have as a business in the real world, in nursing homes, in hospitals, all the clinical credibility. When your parent or grandparent leaves a hospital or a rehab facility and they go home, maybe they're using our product in the facility, they bring our product home with them. Our products often go home with the patients, and then they use it at home, and maybe it wears out over a year or whatever, and they need to buy another one. They're going to go to Amazon, and they're most likely going to look for that same product they've been using that hopefully they really like that has helped them. So the idea of this is what multi-channel means, is that one benefits the other and benefits the other, that this, flow across channels where that's the moat. Right. We may not be and sell the most in our categories on Amazon, although that's not true. In many categories, we're the top seller on Amazon. But Amazon is only a piece of our strategy. It's not our only strategy.
Awesome. I think that's indicative of your success for half a century, and let's hope for another half a century to come. Well, not fully under your leadership, unless you've got another 50 years left. But that's awesome, Jonathan. This has been absolutely fascinating. I love the medical health space where it meets marketing, because it's a real sort of, you're not just selling something to make money. There's a real underlying benefit and use case, and it can make a real difference to people's lives. So I just think that's awesome. If people want to find you or track you down, where's the best place that they can go? Or if they want to explore your products, where can they go?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find Skil-Care on LinkedIn or our website, skil-care.com.
That's awesome. Jonathan, thank you for being such a wonderful show, and take care.
Thanks.